and welcome to The Hearing, our music review show here on the channel. I'm John,
And I'm Scotto.
and this is the first episode of The Hearing that's audio only.
Yeah. I kind of like this audio only thing, actually.
Possibly. But that's why I actually just counted in, which I always do on YouTube to get the camera on me on audio,
Yeah.
which I didn't need to do. Anyway, without any further ado, on to this week's album, which is from 1996, Just Fred by Fred Schneider. Fred Schneider is an American vocalist and songwriter who's best known for his work with new wave band the B-52s and for his use of Sprechgesang, apologies if I mispronounced that, a vocal technique that combines speaking and singing and surprisingly has its, well, actually not that surprisingly, has its roots in German opera.
Hmm.
Just Fred is Schneider's second solo album. It was released by Warner Brothers on April 23rd, 1996, after being recorded in just 2 weeks.
No.
The album was produced by Steve Albini, who has a ridiculous amount of
Yeah.
credits, and features, and this gets a bit complicated, for Schneider on vocals, piano, and keyboards, and he's backed by 3 different bands throughout the album. On tracks 3, 8, and 10, it's Reed Diamond on bass, Don Pyle on drums, and Brian Connolly on guitars, collectively known as Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet. Does that name sound familiar?
No. I'm trying to.
They're best known for their song Having an Average Weekend, which was used as the theme to Kids in the Hall.
Okay. 3, 8, and 10, huh? They're
Mm.
the same.
I'll mention them when it comes up because I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet.
Yeah.
On tracks 9 and 11, it's Jay Ryan on TFA Couplet Maximizer. I googled TFA Couplet Maximizer. It's only on this album. Like every reference to it comes up on this album. I think it's something they just hobbled together in the studio to make noise.
And so,
Um,
wait a minute. The same band. The other band is which tracks?
this is tracks 9 and 11. It's Jay Ryan on TFA Couplet Maximizer, Richard Pelletier on drums, John McLean on guitars and synth, and James Apt on bass, collectively known as Six Finger Satellite.
Hmm.
And on all of the remaining tracks, it's Rick Sims on guitar, Russell Simmons on drums. No, not that Russell Simmons. This is spelled Simins. And Tom Zolukich on bass. Apologies again if I mispronounced. Who are collectively known as Deadly Cupcake. I think they're probably session musicians who were brought in and were just given a band name because the other two have band names.
Right. And we're not really in this for the band.
Except well, the bands, the other two, Six Finger Satellite and certainly Shadowy Men, have their own sounds
Like
and
a lot of
definitely
times
bring
it
something
felt
to the
like
tracks.
it was just like.
But it is about Fred Schneider, really.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that is the main draw. And sometimes it even felt like they just played something just to have something behind him because he would have sounded insane.
and I think that's mostly on the Deadly Cupcake tracks. Anyway, before we get to the tracks, reminder:
Yeah.
I don't edit any songs into our episodes for copyright reasons, but down in the description and on our blog at johnandscotto.com, and that's johnandscotto.com, you'll find links to the full album on Spotify and YouTube, so you can follow along if you'd like. On to track 1, Whip. His first solo album, Fred Schneider and the Shake Society, showed up in my Spotify recommendations last spring.
Oh yeah.
I checked it out. It's basically just a more electronic, more danceable version of B-52s. Not really worth talking about.
Right.
Even though I will say, I like the B-52s. I'm not a big fan, but I enjoy their music, particularly the first 2 albums. Um,
Yeah.
but, that one was nothing really particularly interesting. After that album, I was not prepared for this. Because Just Fred showed up like over the summer. I thought, let's just see if it's more of the same. I was not prepared when a punk song kicked in.
Yeah, it's very Buzzcocks or even Sex Pistols maybe
It's
with it.
it's basically a punk album
Yeah.
by Fred Schneider from the B-52s. And Fred's voice has always kind of reminded me of Jello Biafra.
Oh yeah, you can definitely hear it on this album.
There's a definite similarity between the two. So this answered a long time question of what it would sound like if Fred Schneider did any kind of heavy music.
Like when he sings the low parts too, it sounds just like Jello Biafra,
Yeah.
you know?
And it is glorious to hear, because I've always loved the way he uses his voice.
Yeah.
And all 3 bands are really solid. This song is really just a straightforward punk song, not
Right.
not a lot to talk about. The doubled solo is kind of interesting, but it's just a great jumping in point for what this album is.
I think it goes on a little too long, though. I
Perhaps.
mean, you for like a good punk song, just go in like 2 minutes and
Right,
get
right.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he goes like over three on it. It's kind of like
He just kind of wants to rant at the mic,
he does, yeah.
which is the best parts of the album.
Yeah, it is. It is actually.
On to track two, Helicopter. This is where it gets interesting.
It does. It just I like the rawness of this one.
It's a stoner rock song.
Yeah.
It starts very slow, and he kind of has this really soft vocal. He actually sings,
Hmm.
which is a rare thing for Fred. And I just want to point out, for anybody who knows anything about doing anything vocal, even announcing, it's not easy to do what he does. It sounds like he's just shouting or speaking. It's as difficult as singing properly. You can't just do what Fred Schneider. No one, not the average person without a lot of experience, can't just walk up to a mic and do what Fred Schneider does.
And kind of blow their voice out pretty
Yeah,
quickly. I mean,
he's
so
very
you
skilled.
could do it. You could do it maybe for a little bit,
Mhm.
but yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it for as long as he's been doing it.
Yeah, you can't do what Fred Schneider does without some experience or training. It's very difficult. And I love just the absurd lyrics.
Yeah.
He just gets weird with the lyrics and weird with the vocal delivery. Because he starts off kind of singing very softly, and then he gets loud. And it does this on a few tracks where it's, to quote the title of the documentary, Soft Loud, or Loud, Soft, Loud, the Pixies thing. He does that quite a
Yeah.
bit. It's just kind of an odd song that kind of gives you a hint of what's coming. This is your first taste of this is not what you're expecting at all.
Right. And there are a lot of people that were just buying this hoping for more
Right, of
B-52-ish,
course.
you know,
And
sound.
and then you get punk, and it's well, depending on how you feel about punk, it's either a wonderful surprise or a horrible disappointment, I would imagine. On to track three, Sugar in My Hog. This is my favorite.
Ah, this is up there for me too. Yeah.
And this is the first Shadowy Men song. And you can tell, if you know the Kids in the Hall music, you know this is Shadowy
Hmm.
Men. It's just got this great bluesy groove, and he's just screaming.
Is now first I put right destructive prank or innuendo.
A little bit of both, I would suspect.
I would suspect that too.
Because
Who
the,
put
the
sugar in his hog?
the implication, on the surface of it, it's sugar in the gas tank of a motorcycle.
Right.
And I'm gonna get you, you slob. Who do you think you are, God? I love some of the rhymes he pulls out.
Yes.
And the one line I don't quite understand reading, and I couldn't find a lyric sheet for this
But
particular song. I'm gonna get you in Montreal, I think he says.
yes, yes. Some sort of revenge where he's following someone to Montreal. I love the childishness of the lyrics
Mhm.
coupled with the anger.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of my favorites off the album, but not my strongest.
And just throughout the album, there is so much versatility in his voice. If you think it's just that announcer voice he does in Love Shack,
Yeah.
no, he really brings a range of emotion that is fascinating.
I mean, I think was it Henry Rollins that talked about like the worst moment in rock and roll history is him going, "Let's rock." in Rock Lobster.
I love Rock Monster, but
Lobster.
the classic riff. But yeah, he brings a lot of emotional range to it. And on this particular song, I just love the tone of the bass and how forward it is in their music. It's really a lead bass in Shadowy Men, which is another reason I love them. On to, excuse me, on to track four, Bulldozer, another straight up punk song. Reminds me of Roadrunner by Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers.
Not sure if this one works as much. I mean, the beginning half moves along, like the hook just kind of all blurs together.
Yeah,
The riff just kind of goes forward.
it's just kind of a there song. I kind of like how insistent and high in the mix the drums are. And it's how Steve Albini is such a great engineer. It's just interesting to hear his polish on something this interesting and this out off kilter.
Right. the first half, the music just sounds like filler, but then you get that guitar solo like towards a
It's
little bit right like
kind
in the
of
middle,
doubled guitar and synth. I love it.
right? And then I mean, it gets interesting at that point, you
Mhm.
know?
And it's just kind of Fred shouting at a mic.
Yeah,
Um, it's a filler song, but it's just nice to hear this level of polish on weird music. Thanks to Steve Albini. Now we get truly interesting. Track
my
five,
favorite track of the
Coconut. This is
entire
your
album.
favorite? Okay.
Oh yes, this made it to the playlist of
I
unoriginality.
was wondering about this. Okay,
It
yeah.
was like it was the moment where like, wow, thank God we did this.
This was a last minute substitution from me because we were planning to do the Power Station by the Power Station. That'll be next week. But I've been listening to this album off and on for a couple of months now. And I was thinking about, the Neil Breen movie we did on Zombie Takeout, and they just had to go together. This song, Coconut, was originally written and recorded by Harry Nelson. This is a great and actually surprisingly faithful cover.
Oh yeah,
I actually listened to the original a couple of days ago,
yeah,
and it goes soft aloud again. Starts off kind of psychedelic.
right. And then you'd expect that for this song.
Yeah, yeah. But it's even more psychedelic than the original. It's just kind
It,
of weird. Weirder than the original, which is pretty weird.
it fits, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
right up
then
there with They Might Be Giants, Istanbul.
right, exactly. And the original just kind of slowly builds and, it just stays it's kind of a, 70s soft rock song.
It's
Um
kind of weird that They Might Be Giants never did this one.
true,
They
true.
probably did somewhere along the way.
I'm sure they covered it at some point. But this one, it gets into that middle verse and it just gets properly loud. And he's just shouting.
Right.
And again, it's just great to hear Fred Schneider shout with music that really fits it. And such a bizarre cover.
Yes.
Like I definitely get why it's your favorite. I just Sugar in My Hog just ups the weirdness a little bit
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
yeah. I see why that would be one of your
Yeah, yeah.
favorites too.
On to track six, Center of the Universe. This one just opens kind of folky and soft, just a clean guitar and vocal, and with great lyrics about an attention addict. Here comes the center of the universe, the black hole that sucks up all the light, all the attention from everyone around, leaving empty sky for us to gaze upon.
It really didn't stand out for me this one. It just kind of
I
was
just there's
there.
some of the lyrics I like. The Jekyll and Hyde you hide behind. I like the wordplay there. Great buzz tone guitar tones. And the low vocal to the left toward the end really threw me off.
Hmm.
It's a subtle thing you might not notice it at first, but he's kind of a spoken vocal hard left. I thought I was actually hearing something from another room. Um, did like the little occasional guitar stabs panned hard right. Again, just Steve Albini's genius on a song that
Subtlety
is kind
just
of forgettable. Lyrics aside.
subtlety just and lyrics just aren't what I'm here for.
Yeah, yeah, fair point. Um,
So it's
okay,
kind of
so
it's
on
probably my
to
pick for the weakest on the
okay,
album.
on to track seven. Now we get real weird.
Like what's the AC/DC quote of like, you don't go to the butcher for your brain
Yeah,
surgery.
fair point, fair point. Track seven. Now we get properly weird. I don't even know if I can
Yes.
say this title with a straight face. Radioactive Lady Eyeball.
Uh,
Just bizarre lyrics. I love the line, "Don't be a Twinkie man, radioactive lady eyeball," with this great sort of kind of almost glam rock riff.
yeah,
And there's so much
this
fuzz
is
on the
what we're
guitar
here
that it
for.
sounds like a synth.
This is what I paid admission for.
So this is your second favorite, or second or third? It's up there
It's
probably.
up there. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. It's good though. It's
hmm
good.
Um, on to track eight. Um, Another favorite of mine, Lick.
This one's it's a nice change of pace. I mean,
This is
it
another
doesn't have to
Shadowy
be
Men
all the
song.
same tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the opening groove and the bass tone. Again, soft vocal at the beginning. And then we get into this affected vocal when he shouts. It's kind of distorted. Um,
The, the bass is like a Faith No More
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
definitely.
interesting that you happen to mention Faith No More with the bass. because a lot of the way Fred uses his voice on this reminds me of Mike Patton.
Yeah, because I mean, they definitely they're looking to play certain, sounds. Like
Right,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that opening track was definitely let's do a Buzzcocks,
Right.
because I mean, Fred, his voice works perfectly well with Buzzcocks songs. I'm
Right.
surprised he didn't even cover them.
hmm So, this, they go a little Faith No More, I think, with the vocal effect. Um, just a overall great psychedelic feel, nice stabby guitars toward the end. On to track 9, Bad Dream.
Yeah, this is very Dead Kennedys. It's kind of like almost
Yeah, yeah.
copyright
Um,
Dead
oh,
Kennedys.
opens with this weird noise guitar, maybe a synth, maybe this is the TFA couplet thing, couplet maximizer. I don't know. This is the first Six Finger Satellite song. Um,
This is
there's
like the
one
riff for
line that I
Police Truck.
actually, hmm?
It's like the riff for Police Truck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very Dead Kennedys.
Hmm.
Very chaotic guitar solo, and he just shouts it, and it fits perfectly. There's one line I had to look up. I found like a partial lyric list. Um, the line as written is "Cover my mouth, I feel queasy." Sounds very different when Fred screams it. On to track 10,
I,
Secret Sharer.
I mean, there's more to that though. I mean,
Okay, yeah, okay.
like
It's just loud and angry and brilliant. I don't
I
have any
like
specific notes.
the voice dubs, on the
Hmm
chorus.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like a Velvet Underground kind of thing you're going
Okay.
for,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. On to track 10, Secret Sharer. I'm gonna. This is my weakest, even though I did like it. I mean, I like everything on the album, but there has to be a weak. There has to be a weak spot. Nice glam rock opening and groove and riff. Love the affected vocal. It's kind of a megaphone effect.
It's kind of I kind of thought it was dated, I mean,
Perhaps
it is
it
of its
does.
time.
It reminds me of Stigmata.
It is, it is very the irony is Stigmata, of course, was like 89,
Oh,
whereas
yeah,
this is like
yeah,
96. But it is very much what you associate from like 92 to about
right.
97.
I hate to say that my weakest is a Shadowy Men song, but yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the weakest too, I
Mhm.
thought, on there, because it's just the music doesn't even really go with the song. I mean, this is one where I think the they are just like filling in so he can just
Right.
randomly scream things, kind of.
And on to the last track, Stroke of Genius, ending with a straight up punk song, Six Finger Satellite again. Love the gang vocals because it's all Fred. Like he
Yeah,
does all
I
the vocals, so when the same guy just does gang vocals, it sounds really interesting.
I like this one too. I think they were going for a Danzig
Mhm.
sort of,
Yeah,
or Misfits really more than Danzig, I guess.
and the vocal just gets more angry as the song progresses. He just starts yelling more and more, and it
Since
gets more and more intense.
since Danzig, of course, was more of the old mystic,
Hmm Yeah,
Jim Morrison thing, whereas
right,
Misfits were this.
right, right. All right, so would you recommend it?
I would. I think. I mean, there's some songs just for the price of admission alone.
Hmm
Coconut.
Yeah, yeah. Coconut, Sugar in My Hog,
Yeah,
Bad
and then
Dream.
yes, Secret Share.
Yeah, Lady Radioactive. There's only a couple of songs that I would say are filler. Maybe two
Oh,
or
not
three out
Secret
of
Share.
11
Stroke
that
of Genius. Sorry.
two, yeah, two or three maybe filler songs, but even the filler songs are fun.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad. I
Right.
would definitely recommend it. It's just beautifully weird, and it answered a question I've had for decades. What would it sound like for Fred Schneider to do a punk album? This
Let's rock.
this is honestly in contention for my favorite album we've reviewed this year, up there with Capital Louise at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So until next time, when we'll be reviewing the Power Station by the Power Station, one that we've
Which
loved for decades.
I accidentally listened to on Monday, forgetting that we'd changed.
I regularly listen to a handful of songs from it.
Yeah.
Still. Until then, of course, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you
There
are.
you are.